In this short video, I'm going to show you the very basics of how to identify and figure out which note is which on a piano or keyboard or organ. Hi, I'm Scott Houston. Have you ever looked at a piano keyboard and thought, oh, scary, all those notes, how can you keep straight which one is which, right? Looks like a bunch of teeth staring at me. Right? Well, let me give you a few quick pointers so that that's never going to happen to you again. Let's dig in. Let me show you my piano. Now, here's the deal. No matter how many notes you may see all the way up and down a piano, there's really only 12 different notes that just repeat over and over and over, depending on how big or small your keyboard is. All right. Now, one of the great ways to kind of keep track of where you are on a keyboard is the fact that the black keys come in sets of 3 or 2. Okay, so you'll notice here's a set of 3, here's a set of 2, 3, 2. They just keep doing that all the way up and down a piano, right? Well, by knowing that, if you can identify a set of 2 black notes, you can always find a C note really simply. And here's why. The C note is the first white note that's down and to the left, right? It's lower, meaning lower this way on a piano as opposed to higher, not up or down, but down the keys or up the keys. If you find any set of 2 black notes, the first white note to the left is a C. Pretty straight ahead, huh? Not hard to do that. Now, obviously, because this is just such a rocket science, if I go up 1 white note from C, what do you think it is? Well, that's right, it's a D. Ha! Really clever the way they figured this out, isn't it? And you just keep moving up that way. You can just keep saying, well, that one's an E, right? That's an F. And we're just counting right up the alphabet, right? There's a G. And then you get to this one, that's an H, right? No. Right? That's not an H, that's an A. So here's the deal, the musical alphabet only goes from A through G. So once you get to A, you need to start over. Once you get to G, you need to start over. So that's an A, and then we just keep going, B, C, D, E, and whatnot. So by the time if you started here on a C, and you went C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Well, that's it. Now you just keep continuing it. And if you want to go backwards, it's exactly the same thing. If you're on a C and you go down 1 white note, what would that be? Well, it's a B, obviously, right? Going down, and then 1 below the B is the A, and then 1 below an A is a G, and then F, E, on your way down. So it just repeats like that. That's how you can find it. So you really need to start thinking of it as like sets of A through G, or in this case C through B, if you want to think of it starting on a C, doing it that way. So remember, there's only 12 notes, different notes, no matter how big or small your keyboard is. It's just different sets of them that keep repeating up and down, okay? Now, the next question is probably, well, what about the black notes, right? We've got black notes all the way up and down a keyboard. How do you deal with those? Now that we know the names of the white notes, how do you figure that out? Well, let's do it. Here's the deal. Now again, the black notes, come in the sets of 3 and 2 like that. So here's the way that you figure it out. Each one can have 2 names, all right? Each black note can have 2 different names, and it depends on whether or not you're going to describe that black note as being higher than the white note that's below it, or you're going to describe the exact same note as lower than the one that's above it. Now, I know that's a kind of a mouthful, but it's pretty straightforward. If I want to try to describe this key, and I had never had an ounce of piano in my entire life, I could walk in, and there's really 2 different ways I could look at this. I could say, well, if I knew all the notes here, I could say, well, that's easy, Scott. That's the first note that's higher than a C. And I go, yep, that's pretty true, it is. That's the closest note higher than the C that we know it is. But the next person could walk into the room and say the exact same thing and say, well, no, that's not true. Actually, this is the first note that's lower than a D. And I say, well, that's true too. So the reality is these black notes can have 2 names. Depending on how you want to name it, that will determine whether you call it either a sharp or a flat. So here we go. If that's terms you haven't heard before, sharps go up and flats go down. You can kind of remember that like a flat tire goes down, right? So if you want to describe this note as being the closest note higher than the C, you would call it a C sharp. If for whatever reason you want to describe this note as the closest note lower than the D, you would call it a D flat. All right, so that's it. Similarly, this black note would be either a D sharp or an E flat. This one would be either an F sharp or a G flat. And similarly, 2 more of them, a G sharp or an A flat. And then this top one on a set of 3 is either an A sharp or a B flat. All right. So that is it. That's the reality is that's all you need to know as far as trying to know what the notes are. Don't ever let that get tougher than that. Just spend a few minutes playing with the mental game with yourself of pointing to a key and quickly identifying it and saying, that's a C, that's a E flat, that's a whatever it may be. And you'll now know for the rest of your life how to very easily identify and recognize any key on a musical keyboard. So, now that you know this, if you want to know how to figure out which key on the keyboard correlates to the printed notes in sheet music, I'm going to show you how to figure that out in another video. But hopefully, if YouTube hasn't changed things since we shot this, you'll be able to see a link somewhere on this video to that next video right now. Now, if you searched out this video and watched it, I can probably guess that you have learning to play piano on your radar at some level. Genius deduction, huh? Just call me Sherlock. Well, assuming that that's the case, I'd love to encourage you to do 3 easy things. 1, subscribe to this YouTube channel so you can find out when I post new piano videos like this. 2, sign up for my entirely free Piano Notes newsletter where I give away free tips and tricks and pro secrets, stuff like that. And finally, if you're interested in learning how to play and maybe taking some lessons, check out my online lesson program at pianoinaflash.com. It's, in my admittedly biased opinion, by far the best way for you to finally knock playing piano off your lifelong I wish I could list, right? Just remember, you can play piano and it's never too late to start. Have fun. Sweet. Got that out.